What's up, people? I'm gonna do a part, I guess, a series of these videos I'm talking about now. So, Philadelphia is split up in a lot of sections. It's not a big city like New York or LA, but it's relatively big compared to other cities like Boston, Atlanta. I was looking at the populations, and Philadelphia is up there with the most populated cities in America, or really in the world. It's it's on the hundreds list, like the 1 to 100s list for like well known cities. Like if you don't know if you don't know a country, you know their city. Like you know Hong Kong, Tokyo. You may not know anybody there, but you heard of it. It's like if you don't know much about America, you've heard of Philadelphia, you heard of New York, you heard of LA, you heard of Chicago, but you probably never been to America. But put it like this. I'm from Southwest Philly originally. I grew up there from ages 1 to 8, but I alternated back and forth to both my mother's and my father's house. But I want to tell you this. What was it like growing up there? And I'm going to first start off from the very beginning. So, early memories. Before I had to go to school, had to have like routines. My neighborhood was relatively safe, Both areas I grew up in happened to be on the very border of another township, as in, I'm definitely from Philly. But if I were to walk across, here's the thing. When I would get off the 13 trolley, the next stop technically would be Yaden. So I would be in another township based off that one stop. But that is still Philly, but it is sort of like another township. It's not really Philadelphia. But when we moved there, we had the block was very diverse. You had blacks, you had whites, you had Hispanics. I don't think we had Chinese neighbors, but we had some white people. We had Mr. Bobby, his mother. I didn't know she was blind. I know we used to get on her nerves. She was a white lady. We could get on her nerves because we would play outside. But we were never like arguing. We were cordial with everybody. Um, we had a lot of white neighbors, and they wound up moving. um, you know that story. Like when I watch Everybody Hates Chris, I love that show because it speaks to black kids that grow up in inner cities and like New York, Philly, Chicago. It's like that show it speaks to us. But I remember this episode where they had that one white dude that didn't have enough money to leave. They called him White Mike. But I had a white neighbor, a white friend on my block named Anthony. We had Puerto Rican neighbors, Poppy, Sabrina. They all ended up moving. And Mr. Tony, he was like a handy, like a maintenance man at Penn Hospital. There's some more people. I'm just trying to just think to myself who else. Let me put it like this. Our block we did not live in a ghetto. We did not live in the hood. We live in a working class area, but it transitioned over time. So whenever, and I'm not saying that white people, I'm not finding fault in anybody that wants to leave a neighborhood that becomes too black. I'm not saying you should stay, but it seems like whenever the white people leave, the value of the area goes down. So it's like when the area has no value, it has no value to anybody else. As in, if a crime takes place, It'll take the cop, if someone calls the police, maybe an hour to come, the most. Unless it's a shooting, someone dies. The only time they really worried about finding the perpetrator if they want to, make money off that arrest. But it was relatively good where I live, man. It was good. We had block parties once every year. That was that was what we did. We had like let me say this. I think the best years were 2000 to 2002. Those were like the best years. Because here's the thing. No social media. Music was what we heard on the radio in the car or what we heard in school. Like I said, in the car, whatever was playing in the car, that's how we heard the music. We watched movies not by Netflix or downloading on Paramount. Because there was no such thing as, oh, I want to see the movie on my phone. I'm going to just pay for it on an app on my TV. No. You wait till that shit comes out on VHS or DVD if you had a DVD player. But it was always VHS. What else? We also had, like I said, music, television. Television was a thing. TV was a thing. We didn't have those big, like, flat screen TVs, 60-inch TVs. We had box TVs, Sanyo, Zenith. We had box TVs, and the ones where you leave like a glass of root beer on the top of the television. You can't do that now. What else? We played Nintendo 64. We always had that downstairs. I don't know when we had a TV in our room. I don't know when that happened. Oh, we did, because we had, I'm trying to think. We had the room, me and my brother, we shared a room in the middle. And, we watched wrestling at night. My mother would come in and turn the TV off exactly at like 11 o'clock when it would end. What else? Wrestling was the shit back then. We didn't care. We were not exposed to like politics. We didn't know who the president was or the mayor. And it was relatively a safe city back then. But what I believe, everybody blames this whole Chicago drill music on the rise in crime. I'm gonna tell you how it is. It has nothing to do with Chicago drill music, because AR-Ab and some other rappers from that period, like last decade, they talked about the same thing that drill rappers talk about. The only difference is they have like paperwork to back up what they talk about. They actually did those things. But we are living in the times where children are having kids that are not developed. 15-year-olds are having kids, and their kids are growing up having children, and they're not ready to raise or support those kids. So this is why it's so violent, because no one is being raised. They're not being taught how to act like adults. Adults are supposed to teach kids how to behave, but we're not being raised by adults. We're being raised by our children. So that's why it's so like violent and crime-ridden, because no one is being raised correctly. That's why the murder rate is probably 100 right now, and we're only in March. But growing up in the Southwest, like I said, it wasn't bad. And we had before before I started thinking the way I do about corner stores, you had a little I don't know if I can call it black owned, but we had a little corner store. We would go to Mr. Mo. He was like a little Jamaican dude. We would go to his store, get a little ice cream, little snacks after school there. My mother would take us there. He made chicken, all that stuff. But he wound up selling that store to Puerto Ricans. But yeah, that was we had like I rarely after that I rarely went to that store because my dad was the one that told me don't support those stores because they don't give back to us. That's why I would go to like TriStar. Like TriStar was like a knockoff Wawa. Probably if you're from Philly, you know what Wawa is. I don't know what that store is now, but yeah, man. Growing up, it wasn't bad.